Oh, we're just full of technical difficulties today. But hola, mommies and poppies, is Yawnie, your DJ and dance junkie, with today's dose of the dime right here on the Batchelor News Radio Network. I have my logo up. Oh, here we go. Hola, mommies and poppies, is Yawnie, your DJ and dance junkie, with today's dose of the dime. Looks like we're having a few technical difficulties, but that's unfortunately room for the part. It is Mercury in retro, not Mercury. Yeah, Mercury is in retrograde. So communication is going to be off. Electronics is going to be off. Don't sign any contracts. Don't go into big deals because it's unfortunately going to be a little shaky and not going to be, able for you to do what it is that you need to do. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining me right here on the Batchelor News Radio Network. And definitely, if you ever want to check out any of my other content or any of my other shows, you can go to thebatchelornews.airtime.pro. Definitely have a lot of other radio DJs, a lot of shows, definitely some cool things for you guys to check out. It looks like my Facebook Live is not up right now, but that's okay. Again, technical difficulties. We're going to make this work. So I'm thankful that you guys joined me right here on the Batchelor News Radio Network. And if you want to get in on a conversation, if you want to jump in and ask your, questions or have any concerns, you can do so here, right here on the chat room. And please make sure, like I said, we don't call people out. We'll always want to be respectful. We want to make sure we get our question answered. But we also want to make sure that we're, being nice to each other, because unfortunately in this post-COVID, not even post-COVID yet, this COVID time, people are stressed the hell out. Do understand also that with we have Mercury in retrograde. I'm a big astrology fan, and people can clown me if they want to. That's on them. But I'm also into the phases of the moon. And tonight through today is going to be a new moon. So new moons are when you start setting intentions, start checking yourself, start getting yourself in the manifestation of the things that you want to have. So for instance, I check in on my goals, like the things that I wanted to do. Am I writing like I said I was going to do? Am I working out as I said I was going to do? Am I choreographing the dances as I said I was going to do? So I get in alignment with my goals and make sure that I'm doing what it is I'm supposed to do. And so, kind of like that, I'll check in with myself and see, is what I'm doing working? Because if it's not, we want to do something else, right? Okay, so definitely we had a hot topic last week. And if you ever want to get in on that conversation, you can go to it's actually a Dose of the Dime radio show on Facebook. It's a public group. You're welcome to jump in and join in the conversation. Again, always respectful. As long as you're respectful, we stay respectful. But we talked about, I want to say, Kevin Samuels, and he made a post about women in sex. So here's what he said. He said actually that if you want to remain a respectful woman, you should only date between the hours of 12 and 3. He said a respectful woman will only date between the hours of 12 and 3. He said that if the date is after 5, sex should be on the table. And that was a huge, it's huge. When you consider that most people are still working at that point, when are we supposed to have a date, sir? But first of all, let's go into the fact that no one is promised sex just because you have a date. And it doesn't even specify what kind of date. What if if they're paying Dutch? So if they're paying Dutch and you have this date, is she supposed to just give sex because it's after 5? He said any date after 5 should have sex on the menu. And I go back into, God, why do people continue to listen to this person? It's really, really interesting to see the types of people that we listen to. And I'm no better. I'm not necessarily an expert, but I do have my credentials in order. And I do work on trying to help people in their relationships. But really, Between 12 and 3, who is dating between 12 and 3? That's an interesting concept, man. I got to tell you. Okay. So definitely, if you are, give me your feedback on that. I'm really interested to know what people think about that. But we are kind of tired of hearing from him. I think there was like some rumors and such that he might even be gay. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, then you go, oh, that makes more sense as to why it is he's jumping on the bandwagon and jumping all over, unfortunately, Black women. And I actually have a bone to pick about that. I do have to ask, why? I don't mind people having their preference, but why is it that to establish your preference, you have to trash Black women to do that? I'll never date a Black woman. That's not my preference. Okay, why do you have to trash us in order for your preference to be explained? I don't think that's necessarily how it should work, but I mean, I would love to hear the answer to that question. It would really be funny to hear why it is that that's always having to be a thing. I remember going on a date with a guy, and we were talking, and he dates white women, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm a product of a mixed relationship, but he said something I didn't like, and I said, I guess this is the end of our conversation here. And he says, oh, you one of those mad Black women. Now I had a choice. I could have went off on him, but I decided at that point sometimes it's just not worth it. And why is it that we can't get angry? I don't understand that concept. So again, if you have any answers, please jump into the chat room and let me know. So last week we talked about dating online. Okay. And I actually kind of gave you guys a couple of tips as to how to do it, both men and women. We wanted to start with number one, obviously, please don't share a whole bunch of personal information. Do not share a whole bunch of personal information. Do not trauma dump. It is really easy to jump in and dump all over the place. And unfortunately, it's just not the space for it. Okay. Also, we talked about don't be afraid to say no. If you are not feeling this person, if you are not feeling even just a request to just chat and jump into your inbox, if you're not feeling this person, if they're not really usually your type or you're not attracted to them, say no. Don't drag somebody out and make them think that they have a chance when they don't. That's not fair, and you wouldn't want it done to you. So definitely these are things that you want to consider. Arrange to meet in a public place because safety reasons. I always kind of say I have to have a chat. I do want to chat with people at least for a week, but after that week, I need to meet. And when we meet, it has to be in a public place. And the reason why I say you need to chat for a little bit first is because, one, you want to kind of get to know who this person is, and you want to make sure that your personalities vibe. And then two, you want to make sure they can hold a conversation, because if it's dry on the phone, it's going to be dry in public. So, and I also put that stipulation of meeting within the first week just because you want to make sure that you have a spark. So you don't want to go into getting interested in this person to meet them in person and then find out that you guys are not physically compatible. Now, I'm not talking about just being attractive. I'm talking about there's a physical chemistry that goes on between people who are absolutely attracted to each other. So I might like how somebody looks, but when I'm next to them, it may give me the ick. And the ick is a whole other thing, I got to tell you. So definitely you want to make sure that when you do these things, you want to schedule a date. Not necessarily too soon. 3 conversations in, you should not be scheduling a date. You should at least wait at least 5 conversations in, get their personal information, and absolutely make sure that you schedule it in a public place. And make sure that when you go, guys, because women are just as crazy as men, it might be a setup, let people know where you're going. And women, absolutely make sure your homegirl knows where it is that you're going before you go, okay? And definitely, if you need to drive somewhere, no alcohol. And never let them pick you up. That's kind of, again, a safety thing. 1, you're going to meet in a public place. 2, don't let them pick you up. Because, of course, once they know where you stay, they can get other bits of information for you. And if they're not a cool person, if they're like a stalker, that's going to be a problem. So now me on the slide, even after 5 dates, I'll take a picture of the license plate if I decide that I want to allow them to drive me somewhere, and I'll send it to my own girl. Just because you want to be safe out there, right? Okay, so this is just a recap, review, just going over some of the things that we talked about. And I talked about also, remember, to stay sober. Alcohol is a natural inhibition taker. It'll allow you to do things that you normally would not do. I was telling a story last week about how there was my friend's fiance, and I absolutely detested him, did not think he was cute at all. Thought she was really too cute for him, but of course, love is love. So we're not going to go into that. But ended up having Alizé at my friend's house. And after the third glass of a cup of Alizé, he started looking attractive. So I was like, oh, it's time to go. So do understand that alcohol can definitely influence your judgment. Please be safe, be careful, and make sure that you are staying in alignment with yourself. And if you are getting bad vibes from the person that you are dating, or the person that you're getting ready to go out with, the minute that they give you bad vibes in person, leave. Make up an excuse. I always have an emergency call, and I'll send like a series of ones to a friend, like she needs to emergency call me to come home and deal with something. And definitely that's something that you need to have set up in advance, because if you need to grow, if you need to go, do it. Okay. Trust your judgment on that one. Okay. So that we talked about last week. Online dating is not that scary. It's something that everybody can do. And I'm glad that, I asked a question in the Facebook public group, because I wanted to see some of the different stories. And a lot of them were good. Now, some of them were kind of nasty, meaning like there was a friend who had a friend who she met a guy online, and they got drunk over to the house, and he ended up staying over, and he peed on her couch. You heard what I said. He peed on her couch. This is a brand new guy in a brand new, they hadn't even established a relationship. I think I want to say it's the first or second date, and he peed. So you want to make sure that there are some crazy stories out there, but there are also some really good stories. For instance, with I actually met one of my former boyfriends online, and it ended up being a 3-year relationship. So there is love to be found. And there are several people that were on the Facebook page that will tell you that they met their mates, their husbands, or their wives online. As a matter of fact, mostly men said that they met their wives online. It was kind of interesting to note. I always try to take an account of who's saying what in the demographic, because, it's important to kind of see who's saying what. But yeah, a lot of men were saying that they met their wives online. And unfortunately, before COVID, it was hard for a lot of us to find people to deal with or date organically. Like, it was hard to meet people before COVID. So now, since we have COVID in our space, and we're doing this quarantine thing, it's been even harder to meet people organically. So it looks like we have a question in the chat, and I'll take this one before we get into the meat of our topic. It says, Jeff in Denver said, some women go too far with safety. You should be safe, but not to the fact that it turns the guy off. Agreed. Everything you do should be done low key, but it should still be done, because the statistics kind of don't lie as far as women getting into these situations with men and them getting killed later. I'm definitely not saying that everybody is that, but you definitely want to make sure you're safe and being cautious about who you're dating. And men, y'all do the same. Y'all be inviting women over to your house. You don't know what she got going on. Or they'll invite you to their house, and they'll have men sitting ready to jump you. I've heard about it. And I've seen stories. I've read so many stories. At this point, I'm an online dating expert. I'm not an online dating expert, but yeah, Jeff, I hear you. But definitely being cautious is caution beats being sorry. And I'll always be cautious before I'm sorry. Right. So do want to take a break. Let me talk to you about Feature Album Friday. Stevie Wonder is our Feature Album Friday artist. And listen, I grew up with Stevie Wonder. I don't know who all grew up with Stevie Wonder. It is he's wonderful. Like they did this like little Facebook meme, like who could you listen to all day? And it was Michael Jackson, um, um, Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder, and I was like Stevie Wonder all day. All of his stuff is just playable. So what Feature Album Friday is, it's just 30 minutes of his whole discography, and so you can listen and kind of vibe to it. So listen, Stevie Wonder is the GOAT. I said it. You heard it here. I said Stevie Wonder is the GOAT. So, and that's going to be 5:30 Eastern Standard Time on the batchelornews.airtime.pro. So please check that out on Friday. And also, there's Whisper Softly. I hope they sound sexy as me with this bronchitis because I got bronchitis and it sucks. But on Whisper Softly, so on Whisper Softly, they actually play like from 8 p.m. Eastern to midnight. They play like slow jams, like to get the mood set and get everything right and to get everything breathe and release today. Turn it on. The batchelornews.airtime.pro. Definitely turn it on and just let it mellow out your house. I mean, what else would you do? I like to be mellow. Understand? So we're going to take a moment to take a break. And I'm glad you joined me. And I hope you stay with me so we can get into this information right here on the Batchelor News Radio Network.
Now you can increase your yields by using Conklin's Guardian slow-release nitrogen additive. Guardian holds your nitrogen in the root zone where it's needed over a longer period of time. That, in return, can reduce your nitrogen rates. That saves you money. And whether you want it in a dry or liquid formula, Guardian helps in reducing groundwater contamination, too. So save your money and be a good steward all at the same time by using Conklin's Guardian.
All right, we are back. We are back, and I am so happy that you, again, have joined us right here on the BatchelorNews.radio. The BatchelorNews.airtime.pro on the Batchelor News Radio Network. I'm so glad that you're here. And Jeff, I wanted to hear more about your situation. What did she do that turned you off? Please post that in the comments. I'm really interested because I love hearing stories. Listen, I'm all about it. Okay, so want to put this out there. So when you are starting to date, there are things that sometimes we do that kind of set ourselves up for a downfall. Okay. You could be basically not healed. You could still be suffering from unresolved trauma or the BS that went on in the relationship prior to this new relationship. Okay. So what does that look like? You might still be grieving this person. You might still be thinking about this person and trying to date. That's going to set you up for failure. You might still be hurt behind what it is that they've done or what it is that they did. That's going to set you up because what ends up happening is that you end up blaming or taking your frustration out on someone else for not being the person that you really want in a situation. Real talk. Okay. So you want to make sure that you have cleared yourself, given yourself time to heal and giving yourself time to learn whatever lesson it is before you jump right into a relationship or jump into trying to get a relationship. Okay. You could get stuck. You could get stuck in hating someone and for no reason. So definitely you don't want to be stuck. You don't want to punish other people for what somebody did to you prior, because those are the biggest complaints that I hear from, honestly, our men about women is that women drag their baggage everywhere. Okay. And I get it. I get it. It is hard to trust. It is hard to, be open and receptive to love because it's ugly out there. Single dating is not what it is. And not that I hear people say, oh, I should have stayed married. No, I should not have stayed married because I would rather be by myself and happy than be in a relationship and wondering and miserable and confused. And unfortunately for me, I was in a domestic violence type of situation, hurt or maybe even killed. So definitely these are the situations that we have to deal with. And again, back to Jeff and his comment, we women are cautious because unfortunately we've been through some BS. So, but we can't tell you right. So weigh that out. We can't take some of that into our new relationship, but we also need to be cautious because we want to learn from our lessons and we don't want to compare Sheila Mosley in Tulsa, Oklahoma said, we don't want to compare them to the last person because they are a totally different person. Now, saying that to say, if you see red flags that remind you of the past person, you do want to take that into account because red flags will tell you who they are. Now, red flags are just warning signs. If you see a red flag, you just have to decide for yourself, am I okay with dealing with that? One red flag is not a big deal. Two red flags is not a big deal. It's when you just start seeing multiple red flags that you want to be like, pause, pump the brakes. I don't know if this relationship is what I need, okay? Or if this person is what I need, okay? Another thing that might be tripping you up to getting a relationship is having unrealistic expectations. And I've talked about this before. Unrealistic expectations in the sense that your high standards are okay. Don't get me wrong. High standards are okay. And as a matter of fact, I've kind of been pushing the men that watch me to raise your standards just a little bit. Because here's the thing, I hear a lot of men telling me it's unfair that women have these high standards and they don't want a man that doesn't have a car, they don't want a man that doesn't have a job, they don't want a man that doesn't have a place to stay. And we will take a woman that's living in Section 8 with 3 or 4 kids. And then I say, that's not their fault. You raise your standards, because when you raise your standards, you're raising the bar for everyone else. So if you're upset about that, then you need to raise your standards. And I do mean that. But sometimes we can raise the bar too high and have unrealistic expectations. I had a kind of, I don't do debates, but I will try to teach. A guy says, well, we're not going to argue in my house. And I'm like, well, you're not going to have a house, because arguments are natural. They're normal. Two people living together will always have situations that they don't agree on. And so with that being said, it's unrealistic to say, hey, we're not going to argue. No, you're going to argue. It's arguing in a space that is fair, in a space that both of you guys are getting heard, and not that you just focus on the problem, but that you work towards a solution. So I'm going to take a question as long as it's in alignment with what we're talking about. It says, Mike said, what if she's a good woman, but in a bad situation like Section 8 or welfare? Should we leave them alone? That is an individual thing. Okay, so allow me to say this. If you find someone and you find that they are what it is that you've been looking for, I don't care what, bad situations happen. For instance, when I left my marriage, I was homeless for a while. Well, for about a year. I had people helping me and I worked my butt off and I got my own house and was able to get my degree and blah, blah, blah. So bad situations happen. They do happen. What I say to most people is that if they have goals, if you see them working, if you see them doing something with their time, then yes, that is somebody you want on your team, because they have set something in place and they're working on it. Because you can have people talk about goals all day and not do a thing towards them. That's the person that you want to avoid, because they're all talk. You want to see the action behind it. So should you leave them alone? No. If they're working towards goals to get themselves out of that situation, no. Or some men have this capacity, and I say some, have this capacity to want to help, to want to lift, if they found a treasure, to lift that treasure out of the muck that she's in and put her in a space that she feels honored and protected. And that's a wonderful thing. So no, I think if you find a rare gem like that, definitely move forward in doing that. For me, having been on a struggle bus, did the marriage for 10 years and ended up with nothing, I now expect or I demand, unfortunately my standards are, I need my guy to have what I have so that we're not struggling. Because at this age, nobody wants to struggle. Nobody wants to struggle. It's real talk. Okay, so looking at these posts, like some of these posts, like about a year ago, we was looking at Will and Jada going, oh my God, relationship goals, right? And that's part of the problem. We are looking at these people on social media and going that these are relationship goals, and we don't know what these people did to keep or to get the people that they have. So we're putting these unrealistic expectations on stuff that we think might look like it might be worth doing, but you don't know what that woman is going through. Better yet, you don't know what that man is going through to keep that woman. Listen, real talk, real talk. So understand that we sometimes have these unrealistic expectations and want to make sure that we are being realistic about what it is we want. And that goes back to the point of make a list, make a love chart of the things that you've seen that you want in your relationship. Question in the chat says, Ronald said, thank you, Ronald. I sure appreciate you sending loves and hearts. I so appreciate that. Definitely make sure that you don't have too many deal breakers. So for me, there's some deal breakers, but then as Mike said earlier, there are some conditional ones that I have set forth. So what does that mean? So not just if they're in a bad situation and I see them working, am I going to just bounce? No. But I have to see that they're putting forth effort. But if you have too many non-negotiables or too many deal breakers, like if they have 3.5 kids and a dog, I'm out, then that's definitely not somebody that you want to mess with. And vice versa. So we talked about like unrealistic expectations and people not dealing with their trauma, people not dealing with their relationship trauma. Listen, low self-esteem and anxiety will kill a relationship. Not communicating, not being effective, not nurturing will kill a relationship. So being scared of what they're doing, blowing up their phone, asking for the 360, these are things that will dead your relationship. I had this uncle, his name is Uncle Robert, and he had this beautiful wife. I loved her. We called her Aunt Angel. Her name was Angel, and she had this most glorious afros back in the 70s. She had this glorious afro, man. And she was gorgeous, pretty eyes, just, really cute and petite. But she had been abused and misused most of her life. And she was married to my uncle, but she consistently accused him of cheating all the time. And allow me to say this to you, ladies. Do not do that. If you have no evidence of the fact that this man is cheating on you, do not do that. And because I don't want to say you'll drive them to cheat, but you will drive them to be like, I can't take this, and move on. So what you want to do is give them that space, that levity to say, hey, this makes me feel anxious. We got to stop what you're doing so that we can both feel safe in this relationship. Because let me tell you, guys, I'm going to give you part of the keys to the kingdom. If a woman feels safe with you, she's gonna do a lot more for you than most women will do. Real talk. Marcus in Texas says he has divorced his wife because of jealousy and insecurity. It's a real thing because it turns them into somebody that they're not. You might have met them 100% confident, 100% on their game, always together. But insecurity and trauma and trust issues will tear them apart, and you won't even recognize them. And I get it, Marcus. I'm sending you love because that's a hard pill to swallow. My uncle ended up having to divorce my Aunt Angel because of this situation. We cannot go in expecting people to cheat and monitoring them like they're kids. They're not kids. We are grown adults. And I will say up front, in my relationship, we talk here. We communicate here. We say, I'm sorry, and we change the behavior. And if I feel like I can't trust you, I'm going to address it. And then it's up to, you and I to figure that out after that. But that's how you have to go into a mature relationship, because reality is that, no, sometimes the man is cheating on the woman. For real, the woman is cheating. We do, I'm not going to lie, we do it better. We're slick with it. But if we're cheating, Marcus said he was a dead man walking and he could never please her. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so that also goes back to the unrealistic expectations that we talked about, because definitely those, You want to be realistic about the expectations that you have for your mate. And you want to be clear about what it is that you want it to feel like. Because what you are asking for, if the person loves you, they're going to try and give it to you. And when you continue to tell them that it's not enough, you're invalidating them, you're invalidating their experience. And that's when it becomes a problem, because now you're messing with their esteem. Now, I also talk about making sure that you do learn from your mistakes. So I'm hoping that the sister has learned from this that you cannot do that, because it will destroy your relationship. It'll destroy your marriage. I don't care how many years you have invested. It was an issue for me. And unfortunately, we think that, oh, because I'm not saying I'm gorgeous. I appreciate the compliments, but we think that beautiful women have it together. No, beautiful women have it just as bad when it comes to people that have said stuff to us in the past and it messing with our heads. Men too, because I mean, you guys were never allowed to actually be in a space where you could just be loved. It's and that to me stresses me out, because I try to make sure I allow my son to have his emotions. I don't want any of that toxic male energy to enter into his system so that he could be a beast to his wife. My goal is to raise a gentleman, a man, a king. And so I want to make sure that when I talk to him and I deal with him as a Black mother, that I'm dealing with him on a level that he will convey to his wife. Because isn't that the name of the game? Isn't that the goal? And the same thing with our daughters. If we don't compliment our daughters, take them on dates, show them how they should be treated, they're just going to let some man treat them any old kind of way. So we are the first examples for our children, and we are the first examples for our children as when it comes to love. They're going to look at us. They're going to look at their sisters and brothers. They're going to look at our aunties and uncles. It is up to us to provide them, and even our friends. So please understand that it is up to us to provide them with secure people to look at so that they know what love looks like. Now, of course, sometimes we can't help what enters into our life, but you can put a boundary up and say, no more. We're not going to do this. I kind of tried to make sure that the people in my children's life were positive, which included when I got divorced. When I date, unless I'm serious, and that's after a month, if I'm serious about it, I think it could turn into something serious. That's when I might introduce, and I say might because I might not introduce them to my children. Now, my children are almost grown now, but I did not want to parade a line of men in front of my children, because that leads to forms of disrespect for both male and female children towards women. And we want to make sure that we keep that boundary high. So with that being said, guys, it is almost my time. 5:33. Tick tock, tick tock. I am so thankful that you joined me. Please follow me on all my forms of social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm crazy on TikTok. So just be aware, not everything is going to be the DJ Dime. Is going to be Yawnie acting silly. But definitely follow me on all my forms of social media. Thank you for joining me here. And I will be here next time. Oh, wait, let me see if I can fit this in. Monica says she waited a year, and even then she was cautious with introducing the man to her kids. Absolutely, Monica. And I'm 100% with you on that, because it is an ordeal. One, the children really want you to be with their father, especially if they saw you two together. Again, you guys are the first model for the relationship, but unfortunately, sometimes it just does not work. And good for you, good on you. And sometimes even then you want to be cautious, because we want to make sure we know who these cats are that we're bringing in front of your children. And guys, you too, do not bring just any old woman into your house with your babies, for real talk, because it affects them in ways that you will never know until they're grown. And then they'll tell you. And that's when you don't want to hear it, because there's nothing you can do to fix it. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave you with an affirmation. I am love in all forms, in all ways. I am love in all forms, in all ways. And I deserve real love. And I deserve real love. So I hope you guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will be here same time, all right, here on the Batchelor News Radio Network. Bye, guys.
Sometimes we fall.